Oh, yeah. We're back in our separate boxes, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5 to Go podcast, where we are going to preview the greatest day in motorsports, even though F1's kind of spoiling that. Yeah, I'm salty about that again. And will it be a fresh take on the All-Star race? Well, maybe some fresh voices you haven't heard weigh in on Denny Hamlin's All-Star win and what needs to happen with that date and what that date felt like on Sunday. Not a romantic date. I mean the date on the calendar. And we'll look kind of in between that as well. Some other racing news, and we'll dive right in. I'm your co-host, and welcome to the show. I'm your co-host, Doug Fireball Turnbull, from the traffic team with Rachel Cox-Rosen at 11 Alive News here in Atlanta. Atlanta Journal-Constitution Gridlock guy. Honored to be on with you, and welcome to the 5 to Go podcast, where we take a deep dive on 5 or so racing issues, and you can listen to us anywhere just about, or that you go. That's why it's to go on Apple, Spotify, GoPRN.com, and YouTube. We're back in our normal, respectful places today, and hopefully the internet cooperates with that on all three ends. Some storms are trying to pop here in North Georgia on this Wednesday afternoon. We will start with our University of North Georgia alum, our roving racing journo, hashtag hire Devin Kupka, fresh off announcing some softball, I do believe. Dev, how you doing, brother?
I am doing well, just hoping this weather holds off for the Coca-Cola 600 weekend, because at the moment it is not looking very good right now.
And I suppose if a few raindrops were to delay the start of the NASCAR main event on Sunday evening, it would help Catherine Legg's chances of getting from Indy to Charlotte on time,
That's if
of course.
She can avoid the weather in Indy too.
In Indy, exactly. And last year, we're sweating bullets on Kyle Larson's deal. In fact, him crashing out of Indy is only what allowed him to get to Charlotte on time, because there was a window that he needed to make there. So we will be monitoring that very, very closely. We will not be at the racetrack this weekend, but I'll be monitoring in front of the tube. And at least for now, I actually don't have to work on Monday morning. I thought I did. So that means I will be geared to the teeth, ready to watch it. And speaking of gears, he works those gears in those high-performance transmissions there in the Dawsonville Speed Garage. He is the master mechanic, the 2018 Georgia Racing Hall of Fame inductee, and 1988 Cup Series championship-winning mechanic and tire changer, Dan Elliott. So good to have you on, sir. How are you?
Glad to be on, glad to be here, and glad to be, as you say, in my own cage here, and trying to make the day go a little bit better today. And I feel more in sync today than I felt last week or week before. So whether or not I do a good job today, or whether or not we bring up the things that no one else has talked about, that's what we aim to do anyway, is talk about things that other people have missed, maybe.
Well, and sometimes because I cram these shows, and I get a little frustrated because it's not that they're formulaic. Each show's got its own flavor, but they're all the same talking lines, especially by the time you get to Tuesday and Wednesday. Everybody's commenting this, format that, format this, yada, yada, yada. And I said one time, and actually, I'll be honest, I said it to Brad Gilley at PRN, who hosts on Sirius. I should have thought this out a little better, but I'll share it. I said, Brad, it's like, how many times do we need to have shows, people talking about the Cup race back on Sunday? And he goes, it's not the same show each time. It is different people commenting on it, different perspectives. What I love about the 5 to Go podcast, while we each have our own way of at times being an insider in the sport in different ways, Dan, from you being boots on the ground for many years, Dev, you go to a lot of races, me on the broadcasting side, but none of us is a pure Charlotte insider. We're going to talk a little bit about the Charlotte ring and later in the show, but it means we're watching it with, I would say, a sharpened racing mind, but we're still seeing it a lot of times through the eyes of a fan. And I think it does give this show a little bit of a different feel. We're not a pure fan show. We're not a pure insider show. It's easy to be in an echo chamber, and we try not to be repetitive of what you're hearing out there. So I'm glad you put it that way, Dano. So here's the deal. Let's jump in. The Dover All-Star Race, whoever thought for as many years as it was at Charlotte, and I know there was the one year, 1986 it wasn't, but from 1985 until 2019, except for 1 year, it was at Charlotte or Lowe's Motor Speedway at the time. And it just, as the sun came up, the sun came down. All-Star Week was a big deal in Charlotte. There used to be something called Speed Street that brought like a street festival element to there. And then COVID changed things, and it kind of opened the playbook. Where else can we go? And in the COVID year, you're trying to figure out how to cram races in, and Charlotte got some extra races. So it made a little bit less sense to have a Charlotte All-Star race. It ended up being a Bristol All-Star race. And then as they're trying to figure out how does Texas still have 2 dates but still have an interesting part of the NASCAR schedule in 2021, COTA came onto the schedule, managed by Speedway Motorsports, and SMI said, aha, instead of Charlotte having 3 races, how about we take that and give Texas an effective second race with the All-Star race? And that was not popular. The iteration of Texas as it ran, the way they sprayed the track, the way the track had been reformatted, was not popular at that time. It's more popular now. And that All-Star race, what was that? 1 year they did that? No, 2 years, right? 2 years, yeah. They did that. It was a dud. Okay? Then we have the North Wilkesboro deal. All that energy. Dev, you've been a part of that. Oh, man. But even those races, as much energy was on the premises, those races maybe left more to be wanted. Dominated by Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell. I think I got them in the right order there. Mm-hmm. So then we're at having the All-Star race at Dover because they decided to give North Wilkesboro a points race. All right, so that's why we're here. Try to separate, guys, as I ask you about this, the idea of the All-Star race and it being at Dover. What did you think? And I'm going to come to Dan first because Dan used to run 2 500-mile races a year at Dover as a mechanic, okay? Dan, just for the pure racing action, what did you think about Sunday's events? Format aside and whether it should be All-Star aside, what did you think of? And I'll throw in 1 p.m. start Sunday, too, by the way. What did you think about what we saw?
All right. I go back to, I do like the racetrack at Dover. I did not particularly care for the way the race unfolded at Dover, but we had a little bit of anomaly, I think, in the fact that we lost some good cars very, very early. Okay, so that brought it into perspective of we lost some of the cars that obviously were the stronger, according to internet, the stronger cars that were the favorites early. So that to me hurt that deal tremendously. And the fact that they didn't have, I think, too many caution flags to gather the field back up, to keep everything pulled up and exciting, so to speak. We saw one race there as an all-star race. I would have to see another one there to give you a better idea, because I honestly think that you need at least 2 races or 3 races there to get an idea of an average of what we expect to see at Dover. But Dover is a very unique racetrack. It's much like Darlington, where the driver he races the track, he drives the track and races the track as much as he does his competition or more, because that racetrack is one that will reach out and get you.
That's a great point. It's a track that'll reach out and get you. Kenny Wallace, for all you'd get all the good and all the bad with Kenny, but I really enjoy his takes. And he was a guest on Door Bumper Clear this week. And one thing he said about Dover that I never heard it said this way before is Dover doesn't lend itself to side-by-side racing because you just can't stay side-by-side. You set up a pass and you get it done. And then if that person behind you wants to recoil, they recoil. You just can't stay side-by-side. It doesn't lend itself to that. And I never heard it explained that way before. And I thought that's interesting. So, yeah, so what? The Denny Hamlin dominated, though. There was a lot of passing. There was resin up and down the track. I think he used multiple grooves. And you know, one reason this race was so long is people thought if it was a short stint kind of race, Dan, you wouldn't have that action. It would just be stop and start because you need time for the rubber to take to the track. So, before I go to Devin's take on that, Dan, do you kind of subscribe to that? I mean, I know you weren't a driver, but you know, it's not a side-by-side racing track, but there were a lot of passes, I guess.
I think Dover's just its own unique racetrack, and I think the way that the cars, with the cars being more downforce cars, and if you take that racetrack, it is so different than any other racetrack, because if you think about the racing groove, the main groove of the racetrack, and you do an elevation, it's like Dover is the center of the straightaways is a higher elevation than the turns are. It's like you drive down in the corner, and as you come up out of the corner, you're coming up out of a hole. So you have to be careful that the car stays planted, which means that it relies so much on aero there this is the difference in this racetrack, and why maybe for this particular car it might not be the place to be at to run an all-star race.
Well, and there'll be a lot of talk about that, but it seems like if they could get this condition where you've resined up the whole track, treated it a little bit differently, maybe the time of day, maybe the time of year. This used to be regularly Dover's first race used to be a May race. They may be onto something there, regardless of All-Star or not. So we'll see. Devin, what about you? Your time in NASCAR is not steeped in watching decades of Charlotte All-Star races. You started liking the sport in 2017 and have seen it rotate, every couple of years. So all that being said, All-Star aside, what did you think of the action on Sunday, how the race unfolded? And by the way, NASCAR has it listed as 3 races, just so you know.
Yeah, it felt like one big long race, but the action, it felt like that on Sunday that it dragged, especially in the beginning. The first 2 segments just dragged, and then we were able to click off laps in the final segment, which you could almost say was split up in half because they threw that all-star caution at lap 75 in the 200-lap feature. But it dragged, really, that caution, I think, for Ryan Preece, the oil tank exploding. I think that really set the precedent for the day because that put us under red flag, and it just made the rest of the day felt like it dragged. The funny thing is that the all-star race that we ran on Sunday, I consider it a 350-lap event. It's 50 laps shorter than a typical points race was at Dover, which was 400 laps, but this felt way longer than a typical Dover race did in the past. Chase Briscoe, after the race, said that this felt like we ran the Coke 600, and that's what it kind of felt like as a viewer at home. It felt like we ran the Coke 600 for how long that event. That race was over 4 hours long because I don't think the checkered flag flew until after 5 o'clock, and the green flag flew right after 1. A 4-hour race, only really get that at the Coke 600, but it felt like an endurance race watching it on television. That's just how I felt at home, and it's just weird to think about it, that this is 50 laps shorter than what a Dover race normally is. That
paid no points and no stage points either, despite there being segment 1, segment 2, and then the actual all-star race. So, but it did drag on. But when it stayed green, it seemed like they were getting it, and it opened up the opportunity with those. So we haven't said the reason why it dragged yet, right? Not only did you have a full break in between segment 2 and 3, but you also had those 2 halting crashes that bookended segment number 1 that took out a ton of cars or heavily damaged a ton of cars. And because of the way this is formatted, and this is where – so I'm going to ask a question at the end of this so we don't do this full discussion on it, but this is where people started getting riled up, is that there were drivers that were locked into segment 3 that never got to turn 1 lap in segment 3, so they technically didn't start the All-Star race. So the record book will show that Chase Elliott was not in the All-Star race, for instance. I forget who else it was, but guys that were locked in. Ross Chastain won the Coke 600 last year, not in the All-Star race, technically. All right? And that's where people are upset with the format. So I'll just say this, guys. The main gripe I heard about the format was, again, that everybody was racing at the same time the whole time. Therefore, segment 3 was only the All-Star race, and there were All-Stars that were not in the All-Star race. So, yes or no, we agree that this is going to be corrected in the future no matter what the stinking mathematical format is?
Yes.
Dan, are you confident?
I think the idea is good in hindsight, what they tried to do with trying to have the drivers out on track throughout the whole day and do it kind of in a one thing instead of having...
Because it's Dover's only race of the year. That's why. Dover wanted to have it as close to looking like a cup race.
Yep. The idea is great in hindsight, I think, but in execution, what we saw on Sunday, it didn't come out to make the best product possible and just felt a little weird, especially when things get chaotic. It makes it weird in the end.
I don't think anybody foresaw that you would have 2 Talladega-like crashes at Dover, which they happen sometimes. we've seen clean racing though in recent years, and I don't think they foresaw the idea. What if I crashed on lap 2 of segment 1, but still started segment 3 after not running all of segment 2? Really, what all 19 of those drivers should have done is said, to hell with the invert and the average running order that's going to start the lineup. All 19 of those drivers should have pulled onto pit road on lap 1 of the All-Star race, worked on their cars, polished them up, gone and had a popsicle, had just started in the back of the field, and then you'd have all the slow cars up front they'd have to pass too. And I say all of them, it'd be 5 or 6 or however many it is. So I don't know, Dan, that's been the uproar there. Did you feel the same way, that it was weird to have everybody on track all at the same time and not have a proper open race?
Okay, we could have 10 more races at Dover and not have this happen the way it turned out this time.
That's true.
And we're basically having a conversation about one race that this just happened to be at the very first race. As I've said before, it's almost as if Murphy's Law always applies to a race car. If you think it can't happen, just put it in a racetrack and watch it happen. So we are in a scenario now that no matter what I talk about or what I say or how I feel about it is going to change what NASCAR decides to do. And as I've said before, if I'm not happy with the way they're running it, I need to buy it and make my changes to it and run it however doggone well the way I want to run it. But it ended up being what it is. They'll make changes to it, I'm sure. My question to y'all is, and you may have this in your notes to talk about this, we didn't talk about it earlier, is the All-Star race, does it need to go to another track? Does it need to come back to Dover again? Where does it need to go to, and why does it need to go somewhere else?
Okay, that is a good. So I did want to ask that quickly and not dwell there, because it's been picked apart and half to death. But we are different voices looking at it, different sets.
And then I'll tell you what my pick is and why.
Yeah. So I do think that it seems like it doesn't fit here, especially if you can't have it under the lights. Although night racing doesn't always produce the best product, there's something about the All-Star race since 1992, since one hot night, it has been a night race. And and maybe, I don't know if that's the only reason, but Dan, as you quoted before the show, multiple drivers, including your nephew Chase, said it just doesn't feel like an all-star weekend. And maybe it's because they had 90 minutes of practice for some reason, like on this race, but not the others. It's something just didn't seem right. But that's no knock on Dover or the racing itself. So where could it go? I mean, I think a place that has 2 dates already, you can make one of them the All-Star race. And I said it on last week's show, I'd be okay with trying it at Atlanta. And short stints at Atlanta, you have a proper open race, and then, 2 or 3 segments over 100 laps for the main event. That's 150 laps total or something like that. Why not? What's that, 300 miles or so? I mean, that roughly. That's my vote for that. What about you, Devin?
Yeah, I think with the All-Star race, I didn't have a problem with it being during the day. I mean, Dover had to. Wilkesboro, in my opinion, should have been ran during the day, but they put lights up and we ran it at nighttime.
And they're going to run it on Sunday night this time around in mid-July.
Yeah. And I think with the All-Star race, I see a lot of people say Charlotte, go back to Charlotte. Well, the thing about it, in 2019, people wanted to try another track. They didn't want to stay at Charlotte anymore. But why? Why do we have to go back to Charlotte? Because then we're just going to get the same complaints again after a few years.
Exactly. People forget. But the Gen 6 car ran poorly a mile and a half, and they had the high downforce, low horsepower package, yada yada. That's why. But, and you have totally different package. Charlotte, and I love Charlotte, does not need 3 different races. Points, no points, whatever. If you want to move the All-Star race back, fine. Then take away the playoff race. If you want, so nowhere on our schedule, with all these different places we have to race, with all the places that are down to 1 race date, including Dover, needs to have 3 dates. Nowhere does. Daytona, they're talking bring the Clash back to Daytona. If you want to make speed weeks like that, fine. But I don't know that you need Clash, Daytona 500, and the August 400 miler. And I love Daytona. But I'm with you, Devin. People forget what they used to be upset about. And the only constant is that they're still upset. Okay, respond right here. Hey, so Dan, what's your idea? You ran Gresham Motorsports Park. Should it be a track on the NASCAR schedule, or do you have an idea that it should be somewhere not currently raced in Cup?
Okay, I look at this deal of the All-Star race, as an opportunity for Charlotte. Now, NASCAR may not like this, but NASCAR has made this what it is as well. They've created Charlotte as the hub as well, because we've not only got the track there, we've got the Hall of Fame there, we've got everyone who is somebody lives in or around Charlotte. You've made this what it is. Let's make Charlotte the All-Star race and use this to make a week for the fans. Let's make this for the fans. If this is what the fans are talking about, let's make this a week for the fans where you can go to Charlotte and the teams have the opportunity for you to come and tour the facilities and meet the drivers and the teams, meet all the people at the teams and so forth. Let's make this an event much like Speed Weeks at Daytona, which I miss so much now out of February, because that was what that deal was all about. So let's make it about the fans. Let's make it about the all-star drivers, and let's showcase the teams and bring it to Charlotte and have an all-out event.
So basically your vote would be that you keep all the Charlotte races and add this one in.
No. Not keep all the Charlotte races in, but the all-star race needs to be, to me, and let's showcase Charlotte in that mix, all-star. Everybody's there. Sure. The Hall of Fame's there. Give the fans an opportunity to come and enjoy the week and make it all about the fans.
Hey, I'm down with that. One place it's not going to be is Pikes Peak. Pikes Peak's announced on social media this week that it's closing for good and is going to be redeveloped, which is sad stuff right there. So I just want to throw that in because
you take a couple 1,000 feet off the top of it, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ain't that the truth? All right, so hey, that's what we think about it. Now, the racing action itself, Denny Hamlin just adds to his hardware. He's now a 2-time All-Star race winner. That's something we don't really look at in people's career pantheon, is how many times they win the All-Star race. We look at crown jewels and championships, basically. Denny Hamlin wins it, dominates it. There was nothing gimmicky that took him out. And by the way, I do like that the last segment, all it had was a halftime break. I love that the last segment they ran it pure and let it play out, but that could have been the whole race, though. You could have taken 100 laps off the front and made it to the open and then done it. But anyway, Denny Hamlin wins, and Toyotas were fast. Teammate Chase Briscoe was second. Eric Jones flashed some speed up there, and he finished third, so that's 3 Toyotas on the podium. Austin Dillon, all race long, was in the conversation. And granted, you had some fast cars taken out, you had inversions and all that fun stuff, but he finished fourth. Connor Zilic came back from a pit road penalty by his team to get his best finish of his Cup career. Doesn't count for points, but he finished fifth. The rest of the top 10, Austin Cindric, William Byron, Michael McDowell, Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski. Your fan vote, I don't even want to list the different drivers, I guess Bowman, McDowell, Gregson, and Ty Dillon were the ones that raced their ways into that by looking at the list here very quickly. And then fan vote winner was Daniel Suarez. Now, what you had in this race was only 13 of the 26 drivers that started segment number 3, which is officially the All-Star race. Only 13 finished on the lead lap. You had Joey Logano crashing out of this race, but others with damaged cars that were just nursing it along the way. Kyle Larson ended up crashing too, but he had damage from the very first event. Shane Van Gisbergen, Bubba Wallace with damage. Daniel Suarez, the fan vote winner, as I said, had a tape number on his car, finished 21st. So it was a really kind of weird, bizarro event. Brian Blaney was actually 13th with a heavily damaged car that they spent 75, 100 laps working on to be able to even compete in this race. Carson Hocevar had damage, finished the first car a lap down. But Denny Hamlin, your winner there. How about this, guys? Denny Hamlin, there hasn't been a driver not named Denny Hamlin that's won at Dover in the Cup Series since 2023. He's won the last 2 points races and now the All-Star race. Also impressive from the weekend, now back to just regular old points racing, okay? Corey Day, second win of the year, chases down the Gator, Justin Allgaier, to score Day's second win of both the season and his career. We don't have to get deep into it, but what's been discussed the most about this is Corey Day. Talladega is one thing, but he's really finding his feet, and he went down and chased Allgaier and took that daggum race win, much like Kyle Larson did at Texas, by the way. Did either of you watch that or have an opinion on Corey Day's drive? That weren't able to? So it was good. He put the spurs to that number 17 car. And there was a silly season Jordan Bianchi athletic column that we maybe discussed briefly last week, but there is some talk that that Hendrick may consider putting Corey Day on the 48 car as early as next year. And we'll see what happens with that. To me, that seems quick, but he's starting to get his speed under him about the same time that Zilich did a year ago. It took about till this time a year ago until Connor Zilich started getting those trophies. Kyle Busch has now won twice in the same year in the Truck Series. But he won Dover and came back from it on Friday night, too. He had the track position game kind of leap ahead of him. And Devin's mind's blown by that. Either of you guys see any of the truck race?
No.
I caught the very end of it on Friday night.
Kyle Busch, baby. And by the way, he and Hocevar have so many issues with each other, but yet they're teammates a lot of times. And when they dip down in these truck races, I think that's pretty fun. So had that too. Now, what did you guys? This is something. If there was one success of this weekend, that was a fairly okay attended race. Not a lot of people watched on TV. It started at 1 p.m. The racing action was all right. I absolutely enjoyed qualifying. I loved that the pit crew challenge was mixed in with the pit stop. If I could change one thing, it would just be that they shouldn't include the drivers in and out time in the box as far as what goes on the pit crew for their award. Zane Smith's team won with the fastest pit stop, but that included Zane Smith's in and out of box time. So the pit stops were always showing up to be 10 to 12 seconds when during the race they're 8.5, 9.5 seconds. And that was confusing to me. But, of course, the way the starting lineup was determined was a mixture of the drivers' qualifying laps, and several of them busted their butts, all right, including Denny Hamlin, who won the pole. He spun out on his warm-up lap, turned his car around, and gets the pole of not the most Denny Hamlin thing ever, okay? Is still winning the pole after spinning out. But Zane Smith team won the challenge. Did either of you guys get to watch, listen, see highlights of the Mechanics Wear Pit Crew Challenge? I don't care if the All-Star race is held in my courtyard outside here in my condo. That I want that full qualifying setup with the pit crew challenge mixed in. It was exciting, and there was a lot of trouble in it too.
Yeah, and for my time, I didn't get to catch any on Saturday, but for my time covering Wilkes at North Wilkesboro, the All-Star race the 2 years that I did, that was one of the more exciting things going on through the weekend. Besides the actual races, was this pit crew challenge because it actually factors in what can help determine races is your pit crew.
Yes, and I just think that since the pit crew is the one that wins the challenge, just take the driver part out of it. That determines his starting spot, okay? Make it just be about their pit stop from as soon as the car stops until the moment it peels off, nothing else. But, Dan, do you like that? I mean, you're always a champion of pit crew members. Do you like the front and center of this? Because it used to be the pit crew challenge was held completely at a separate venue sometimes or not a part of the qualifying, but this puts it right in the middle of the show.
Yeah, because they used to do this at Charlotte where they had a 4-lap qualifying with a pit stop in the 4 laps. So this is not anything new to me. And the only thing I'd love to see different is take the speed limit off the pit road.
They've done that before many times too. I don't know why that changed exactly, but I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with it. All right, so Zane Smith,
I think
congratulations.
since you've only got one car on pit road at a time, that the car doing pit road at full speed gives you an idea of kind of the excitement of what that's all about, and it also give the crews a little bit something to shoot for. I think would be an added extra to me to really make this exciting and to make it different from anything else anywhere else.
I don't know if it'll work on a pit road like Dover, these days. Yeah, just coming off the banking like that, full speed, and figuring out, because they were almost wrecking, slowing
It
down.
don't matter. It doesn't matter where you do it at. It's still the same thing. It's the excitement of pit road, full speed, full bore.
Well, so you heard it right here. We're all for whatever they do with the All-Star race, and we're not even campaigning for a certain place. Maybe Dan is for Charlotte. Keep the pit crew challenge a part of qualifying.
Keep me out of this. I'm for Charlotte. You wouldn't believe what an opportunity that would be to sell a package or do a package for the fans. This could be Six Flags over Charlotte.
Six Flags over Charlotte, yes.
Yep.
6 checkered flags over Charlotte. I love that. I love that. All right, so we're going to put a lid on the All-Star and the Dover race weekend there. The track did a really good job. I heard multiple people comment the fairway, or the midway rather, was really packed with a lot of interesting things. They had the world's largest inflatable duck as well. This is the world's second largest in my hand right here, by the way. So, yeah, just so you know, respond right here. Okay, now we mentioned Pikes Peak was closing down. I also am surprised, guys. I haven't seen any news about RFK Racing's appeal of Ryan Preece's penalty for calling his shot and then taking it at Texas there on Tyrone Gibbs.
I believe it's on May 27th is when the hearing
is
on
it?
that is. Yeah.
Okay, so no new news there. We also saw officially that AM Racing, the team that Nick Sanchez started out the year with, has suspended operations. We knew they had suspended operations, but they have officially closed. So no Ford teams in the O'Reilly series there. The Ford teams and the trucks are also struggling, by the way. It's tough to see what's going on with ThorSport. And we also saw, too, and again, if you guys did watch the truck race, I don't know that I want to get too much into it, but Natalie Decker had a meltdown on the radio during the race. I mean, and again, what happened that caused the meltdown is understandable. 2 penalties to start the race. But she, parked it during the race there. She had gotten no minimum speed at Watkins Glen, which is a truck issue, not a driver issue. The truck was cutting off, so I'm told, or so has been reported. So I don't know what to make of that, guys, because I've seen Natalie Dale run, or Natalie Dale is our GDOT spokesperson here in Atlanta, Natalie Decker run competently in the top 3 series before, or in the top and Devin, you seem to have an opinion on it. I'm just, I don't want to go on this thing, oh, she's not experienced, and because I feel like that's been said. I don't know what's missing there or what's changed in these last outings, I guess.
I think she's brought a lot of attention to herself throughout the years in her racing career. And especially this year, she's under more of a microscope with the interview I believe she did with who was it, Matt Tift, right?
Matt Tift, the former driver and car owner, yes, where she talked about she was considering opening OnlyFans and how her husband, Derek, he's a few years older than her, and he said, call me when you're 18, basically, and like stuff like that, stuff that is cringe no matter what, right? So, yeah, it's drawing attention for the wrong reasons. There's never she ran 17th in the 30th place car attention.
Yeah, I think the attention's starting to get to her, as she said on the radio on Friday night, saying that, this is just not going to look good. This is not going to look good. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but sometimes it's brought on upon yourself when you basically invite it in by doing certain things to get attention. I think that's what's really getting to her.
Yeah. And this may be something, so we're not singling Natalie out because she's female or not. It's more of maybe a generational thing. So imagine you're an influencer, which really that's kind of her main thing. I know she's a driver and she's trying to get sponsors, so the influence and all is tied in, right, Dan? But if your highs and lows professionally are so much built on how the internet treats you, when they're into you, even if it's for kind of a bad reason, when they're into you, your stock's up and the money's coming in. And when it goes down, we have this whole industry that didn't exist 20 years ago, Dan. And I'm wondering if generationally we're going to see more crashing out like this. And I mean that proverbially. And it's just like it seems like it's not healthy. It's like playing the stock market almost with your emotions or something.
Yeah, because you can, for the most part, generate some of your own stories to bring in viewership or to make yourself a more popular person as an influencer. It's all about the numbers. And when you can bring more numbers, no matter how you do it, because in my time, it was no press is bad press. Okay, so look at this the same way. And you've got people that are coming into this that they understand how the streaming works, how the influencing works, and we have a prime example of that, Cletus McFarland. He's just been successful
on the other side,
on the other side. He's just been successful at what he's been able to do and backing up some of the things that he's talked about. But still, make no mistake about it, he's still an influencer, and he's got the numbers there to support what he's doing.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I mean, he's done such an incredible job, and other people maybe who even aren't fans do kind of tip their cap. Like he knows how to capture a crowd and capture attention, and maybe that's one thing that she lacks. Is it?
Yeah, I want to be just like him. I want to be able to bring the numbers as well.
Yeah, no doubt. One thing that I think Natalie Decker lacks is the charisma element to be able to smooth those edges out when things go wrong. She's obviously beautiful, and is a unicorn as a race car driver, just being a woman racing cars. There's just not so many, right? And she knows what makes things pulse on the internet, but she doesn't have the charisma to cover that up in those weak moments. When Cletus McFarland's having a bad moment in a race, he's like still a bro. and then he does this great interview afterwards, even when he's being self-deprecating and vulnerable. And she has been vulnerable, but it's like there's a charisma element or awareness element she may be missing there. So I wish her well, and I hope the next time that she's out that she could be successful.
In that list, if you listed her, would you put influencer at the top, race driver second?
Influencer at the top.
Okay, so you've got people that are, it's like we don't really understand which heading you want at the top, or we don't understand which one is the most successful, because some of those you see the fact that influencer is at the top and then race driver is next. It's which one is the most important, and that's one you got to focus on.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. I think in Cletus's case, Cletus could race a full NASCAR schedule in all three series in a row. Go trucks next year, O'Reilly the one after that, Cup after that, and he would be an influencer first, I think, because the following is so big. It's not a pejorative that it's influencer first. And we've seen with Denny Hamlin, is he a driver? Is he an owner? Is he a business person? Is he a podcaster? And it's like, dadgummit, he seems to be all of them, not to mention sewer of NASCAR. Okay, so let's pivot off of that and preview this Coke 600 here. All right, let's get into it. Last year, won by
Ross Chastain.
Dominated by
William Byron,
who is the leading driver in the Gen 7 era. I love pulling that stat out as far as points go at Charlotte Motor Speedway on the oval. All right, I picked the last four races at Charlotte because there's only been four, 2002, 3, 4, 5. The races have kind of progressively gotten less chaotic. If you remember 2022, that was an unbelievable bananas race. Is that the one you've got on there?
Yeah, it's the 2022 600 shirt. I don't know
if
the camera sees it.
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah. Man, yeah. It just a bananas affair, all right? You also, in 2024, when Christopher Bell had the win that I know you loved because the race got cut short by rain. It was run a day late as well. But William Byron, the best driver in the Gen 7 era, he has 186 points, 3 top 5s in 4 races there. The only other race he didn't finish. Average finish of 9.8 despite that DNF. Average start of 2.8 for Lord Byron. And he has led 424 laps in the Gen 7 era. Next most on the list, Ross Chastain, 171. And then it goes Ryan Blaney, who only has the 16th most points at 165. And by the way, he won the 2023 Coke 600. 2024 is Christopher Bell. And like I said, Ross Chastain a year ago. Christopher Bell, second most points in the Gen 7 era. Tyler Reddick, third. And Tyler Reddick said this is one of his best tracks, best races. He gets absolute psyched for this race. I heard him say on MRN this past week. Fourth went to is Ross Chastain in points, again in the Gen 7 era at Charlotte. And fifth is Denny Hamlin, who also has won in the Gen 7 era there. He won the 2022 race, that chaotic finish. So look, and I could go look at the mile-and-a-half races kind of this season in a moment here and how they've played out. But, boys, I guess I'll go to Devin first. You looking at any favorites here, any people that you think are primed for a good run that haven't had it yet, or somebody that's going to capitalize on the momentum they've already accrued?
William Byron, a driver to look for. As you mentioned, all the stats, just needs to finish it out in the end. What about a Chase Briscoe who we saw in his debut Coke 600 have a decent race there? Maybe he goes out and gets a win. We've seen him have that capability over the last year with Joe Gibbs Racing, so maybe he's a driver to look out for. We've seen Kyle Larson run this race very well in the past. He's looking for a win, hasn't gotten one in over a year, so maybe him as well.
Chase, so yeah, there you go. Chase Elliott won Texas, by the way, and won it handily. We covered that on the show 2 weeks ago. The other mile-and-a-half races that are the downforce tracks, I'm not including Echo Park Speedway in that. Denny Hamlin won Vegas, and Tyler Reddick won Kansas. All right? Those are really the only comparables that we've run this season. All right? The Penske cars have kind of been a little bit behind, it seems like, on the mile-and-a-half. That's sort of been the opinion. It's hard to pin down, but it seems like, Dan, Captain Herb be spinning 10,000 RPM in his grave here, but it seems like Toyotas maybe are the favorites, Dan. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it's a toss-up between one or two of the Toyotas and definitely one or two of the Hendrick cars, as we well know from what polling that I've done around here and what people are pulling for. It's one of those things where attrition doesn't seem to be the factor. I think common sense and the fact that I think most drivers get settled out early, that it's a long race and let's get settled in. And the main thing, though, is let's see who goes after the segments this year and can pull off the segments as well as the wins to put this in a category to where that we're going to have to start looking at points somewhere pretty quick on who can accumulate the most points.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, too, Ryan Blaney, he won in 2023, but that's his only top 10 in the Gen 7 era. Average finish in this car of 26.8. Yep. That's a little strange, too.
This is kind of like, to me, the O'Reilly races is it looks like the Fords are going extinct.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know about that at Cup. I mean, Blaney's looked awfully strong. Entered in the Cup race. We know about Catherine Legg trying to run the Indy Double. And B.J. McLeod is not her stand-in driver for the Cup Series. I don't know if that's been announced yet or not. But he's going to be up in Indy with her, actually. I believe I heard her say. But Timmy Hill is going to be entered in the number 66 Car Long Garage 66 machine. Corey Heim. He's someone that could be sneaky and have a good run there. I don't know about when, but have a good run in the number 67. Catherine Legg will be, again, in the number 78. Looking ahead to the weekend, let me scroll up here. Friday night, 7:30, the North Carolina Education Lottery 200 Craftsman Truck Series race on the NASCAR Racing Network, NRN. So it'll be all PRN people this weekend instead of the Frankenstein deal we had last week where the races were all over the place at Dover. The Charbroil 300 will be Saturday at 5, so that's also an evening race. And then Sunday's Coca-Cola 600 will kick off at 6 p.m. Remember, there is no breakfast with F1 on Sunday. They and their hubris, the Formula One series, is going to run the Canadian Grand Prix basically during the second half of the Indy 500 and the first part of the Coke 600 or so, just around there. I'll pull up that time in a moment. But boys, I mean, do we want to talk about the Indy 500? Have either of you followed anything that's gone on there?
No.
All I know is Alex Palou is on the pole for Sunday's race.
You were right about that. And, man, they do qualifying right. Having that 4 laps average, and then you go from the from the 33 to the 12 to the 6. Man, they do it right, son. They do it right. They also practice like crazy for this thing. I mean, too much so in my opinion, but it builds. I'm not trying to mess with anything in Indiana, man. y'all do your thing. I wanted to try to pull the full weekend schedule there. I don't navigate their website quite as much, but there are several practices here through the week. Okay, here we go. Now I'm trying to get down to the right deal. What's today? The 20th. Okay. All right. So Monday they had a practice number 7. It was Monday, and Alexander Rossi, who was in the running for the pole, Alexander Rossi crashed and actually broke a small bone in his hand and ankle, and is in a foot. It was in a foot brace for a couple days, a boot. This was the word I was looking for. But he's going to be okay to run the race. Of course, a backup car for his Ed Carpenter team. And then Friday, here we go. IndyCar Carb Day, final practice is 11 a.m. Friday. They have the Oscar Mayer Weenie 500 that will be broadcast on Big Fox. And IndyCar at 2:30 on Friday is going to have the pit stop competition. The green flag set for the NTT IndyCar Series Indy 500 at 12:30 p.m. on Big Fox on Sunday. By the way, Fox, last weekend of the year for the Cup Series. They're in NASCAR. So I'll look up Formula One's time in a second there. But you guys going to be watching the 500? You had to work? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm going to try to watch the Indy 500. It's always probably missed the start of it because the media center at Charlotte Motor Speedway doesn't open until like 1:30, 2 o'clock almost.
Wait,
so.
you're going to be there?
Yeah, I'm going to be at Charlotte this weekend.
Dev, you son of a gun. You tried to interject when I said that earlier, and I totally missed that completely. Wow, you son of a gun. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be at Charlotte all weekend.
You staying with Garrow?
No, I'm not staying with Garrow.
I had a great conversation. I'm going to save. I've got a great Mark Garrow story to praise him that I want to save for my final thought. Okay, in the middle of all this, a 12:30 Indy 500. I'm embarrassed. I didn't even know that, Devin. We should talk sometime. At 12:30 Indy 500, Formula One Canadian Grand Prix at Cirque du Gilles Villeneuve is at 4 p.m. And then that'll be finishing up right in time for the Cup Series race. Is there any way they finish the Indy 500 before 4 p.m.? I don't think there is. I'm okay with it being in the middle of the two, but my God, seriously, you're going to start at the end of the Indy 500?
The Indy 500 typically finishes around 3 o'clock, I want to say.
It starts at 12:30. There's no way they're running 500 miles at Indy in 2.5 hours, though.
Well, the Indy cars are a lot faster than NASCAR is.
But okay. I mean,
maybe 3.
If they average 225 miles an hour the whole time,
that's around there. 3 hours.
Yeah, boy, that's pushing it, man. Good Lord.
What's the time difference?
Well, they're all right. I mean, you know what? That 12:30 actually. Hold on.
Yeah.
That 12:30 is Eastern, so it's 11:30 Central. So 12:30 Eastern.
But Indianapolis is on Eastern time.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. That throws me off, man. Yeah, that's right. It is. Don't I know? Good Lord. That crazy weekend in 2024. All right, Dan, what's your interest level in Sunday? Is Sunday the greatest day in motorsports for you? Do you flip on the Indy 500 even though, like me, you're a NASCAR guy?
I flip on the Indy 500. I love to see the personalities. I love to see the different drivers. I mean, what's not to pull for Catherine Legg and doing the double and coming to Charlotte, and you want to see how that, because last year it was Kyle Larson and this year's Catherine Legg. So you've got to know that regardless, you want her to be able to compete in both any way humanly possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope it works out. She is going to put in a great effort there, and I would love to see her complete both races. I don't care what lap she's on. Just no crashes, no drama. That'd be awesome. That would be so cool. All right, and like I said, Coke 600 gets kicking just after 6 p.m. Eastern time there, so that's going to be big. I'm looking forward to it. I love that day, and yes, I will flip on the F1 race. After it starts, I may watch lap 1. Then flip it on after everything's done in Indy and hopefully catch the end of it before NASCAR gets going there. Devin, you're shaking your head, though.
Yeah,
you're
if
protesting.
If F1 was in Monaco, I'd flip it on then, but I don't know how to get that on because I don't have Apple TV.
Well, they'll have it at the track somehow.
I be honest, don't really have too much interest in the Canadian Grand Prix. So
man, well, you're missing out.
600 for me. We can watch
you're
Monaco
missing
when I'm
out.
at the beach the next week.
I thought it was interesting that there you go. That Connor Zillage thanked Spire Motorsports for giving him the opportunity to run 1,100 miles this weekend, and it's because he's going to run all 3 races at Charlotte. So there's add them up. I think his math's right. Yeah, 300, 200, 600. Yeah. So there are 1,100 miles run over 3 days at Charlotte Motor Speedway of green flag action. So I think that's pretty cool.
Let's not run on the same day.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, so weather forecast not looking great. Tune in, pray, cross your fingers, cross your toes. Get her done. All right, so look, we didn't cover a lot of big news stories. We really just kind of got to the mess, got to the facts. I mean, the last piece of this show, and I want to try to do this succinctly, but is the Hall of Fame. Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, Larry Phillips, the short track ace, they were announced as the people voted in. Lisa France Kennedy gets the Big Spirit Award as well. Dan, your brother Ernie was on the list. The bar is really high for mechanics and crew chiefs and whatnot to get in. There are a lot of great ones even before Ernie that haven't gotten in. And then you still have drivers like Greg Biffle and Neil Bonnet that are right there kind of in that purgatory. Will they bust through or not? Casey Kane, one of those guys. So what did you think about what the panel chose? And what do you think about Ernie's prospects in the future?
All right, who the panel chose, I'm okay with it because this needs to be done in a different manner anyway, I feel, because I feel like that it needs to be there needs to be a separate division of who goes in and how you do this. Maybe it's mechanics. You have a mechanics Hall of Fame. You have a driver's Hall of Fame. And let's break it up to what it truly is. And each one in their own right deserve to be there. And if we're not careful, we're going to get so lost in the semantics of all of this, we lose focus of what it's all about. We're honoring the people that have made the sport. And there's where I feel like, just like Ernie and what the family did in our realm, let's face it, this will never be done again the way that we were able to get into any of this and do any of this, because now you've just about got to be a billionaire to get into NASCAR anyway. So given what I see is we've changed so many other things, I think it needs to be changed in the how this is laid out to get in. And like I said, I think that you need one. You need a Hall of Fame entry for the mechanics, for even the racetrack owners or promoters. You need to be able to honor those people, because that's going away too, because now NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports owns the tracks anyway. So you've got a different deal altogether, but you've got different people, because I look at Humpy and Bruton as what they did at Charlotte, and that was just incredible what they put together in the years before there was major ownership of the tracks, and this was done on a level that you had no idea could be done, and they did it anyway. And this shows you how talented and how smart these people were to bring all that together. Yeah. So I think let's go about this a different way. Let's get these people in, because at some point in time, it's really not going to matter that much who you bring in, because it's going to be too late for some, because we need to honor some while they're still here among us, and we can give them the honor that they deserve. But out of what Ernie did and what was done in that time, unbelievable, because the hours that these people put in, the hours you work, the things that you do, you can't convince people. You couldn't even appreciate what was done to get this on the level that it was done in the time that we did it.
Yeah, well, it's undoubted, no question to me that Ernie is NASCAR Hall of Fame material. But it's like there's so many people, the Harry Hydes and people like that are right in that atmosphere, so to speak, or right in that orb, that it's like, how do you do that? It's a separate division for them would be a good outlet for it there. Yep. Devin, again, we could debate just till blue in the face. I think Dan made an excellent point, but how do you think about the Hall of Fame process? Are you okay with whom the committee settled upon?
Yeah, and I think as we go along, there's only so much people that we have in this industry. I think you're going to have to start looking more in depth, not just at the drivers or crew chief, but you're going to have to start looking at mechanics or people that were influential in the sport. I think you have to start looking at that, because it's not always just the drivers or the crew chiefs. It's also a lot of the behind the scenes people as well that help make the sport, make the drivers in a way. So I think you're going to have to start looking at Hall of Fame process selections like that.
Yeah. So they used to be putting in like 5 people per year, so there are separate divisions. There's the Betty Jane France Award, which I believe is what Lisa France Kennedy is getting this year. There's the Pioneer Ballot, which is where Larry Phillips is going in. This is kind of the old timers and people like that, right? That have been on the thing for a long time, and baseball has that as well. They have the Veterans Committee selections that are different than what the Writers Association chooses. That's baseball. So, and then you have basically 2 drivers and or crew chiefs. Everybody else, you pick 2. They narrowed it down from 5 to that many just because you seem like you're running out of people. But we're now starting to get a backlog again as more and more people become eligible. How it only took till now that Ernie was on the list, Ernie Elliott, and when he's been out of the sport for as long as he has, I don't get. But I think we need the baseball rule where you have to clear 70 or 75% to get in. And whether 10 people do it or 2 people or none, that takes care of it. To me, that sets the bar high, but it also allows you're not limited. I can only pick 2, and that would help too. But I think Dan's idea of divisions would help also. Congratulate Kevin Harvick is no doubter. 60 Cup wins, the championship, the Daytona 500, and 2 O'Reilly titles. And when I looked at the bio that NASCAR put out, they didn't even put in that he won, I think it was 3 or 4 Truck Series championships as the owner for Hornaday, and all the races that he won as a car owner in O'Reilly and trucks as well. And I know that's a different ball game, but that should be the cherry on top. And now he's a broadcaster, a little sprinkle on top of the cherry or something. So Kevin Harvick, well deserved. Jeff Burton, anybody that wins as many races as he did should be in heavy consideration for that. I should pull it up right now. And I do think that Greg Biffle and Neil Bond and them will be behind them until more retirees start piling on top, right? That's kind of the deal. Mm-hmm. But that's the Hall of Fame, and I'm looking forward to watching that. It would be good to see the Hall of Fame induction. Several people have said this, to just let the Hall of Fame induction happen in Charlotte during an All-Star week. I think that would be, I think that would be better. Just have it there instead of doing it separately in January.
6 Flags over Charlotte.
Okay, Lisa let me correct something I said, then I'll get to what you said, Dan. Lisa France Kennedy was the Landmark Award for Outstanding Contributions, by the way, not the Betty Jane France Award. Jeff Burton had 21 Cup victories and 27 O'Reilly wins. Let me clean that up. And Larry Phillips was the first of 2 drivers to win 5 NASCAR Weekly Series national championships, and he won 220 of 289 NASCAR sanctioned races from 1989 through 1996 on the short tracks. That's crazy. And won somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 races. Hard to nail down exactly, but the stats on those guys. So what were you going to say, Dan?
I'm saying that, all joking aside, I'm serious about Charlotte is missing a great opportunity not to put an event together that is the all-star event, and breaking this up to where you have Daytona in February and then this all-star event in the middle of the year. It gives the fans an opportunity to go there to be a part of all of this, or feel a part of all of this. And I think there's the important element that NASCAR or someone is missing, is make the fans a part of this.
Yeah, make the fans a part. I like it. Mm-hmm. In all realms too.
In all realms.
Right, so how highbrow can you get when you've got All-Star, Hall of Fame, and multiple crown jewel races in the same.
Well, look at all the race shops. Look at all the race shops you could go to, and all the things that you could do. And of course, Charlotte would benefit from this exponentially.
Yeah. Let's get back to it. Let's bomb right here. Make
Tell
an
them
all-star
to
week.
call me.
Call Dan Elliott, 7-0. Never mind. Okay. All right. So, hey, look, like I said, highbrow. NASCAR's Crown Jewel Coke 600, Indy 500, All-Star Race was before it. Hall of Fame, we talked about that, and what to do about the All-Star Race. So you're going to get your 5 to go, everybody. And now let's get to our final thoughts here as I need to scoot in just a moment. Dev, any final thoughts for you as you will be in Charlotte this week?
Yeah, just check out the 5 to Go podcast Facebook and YouTube page for all updates throughout the race weekend.
I love that. The videos you put, the most mundane short videos, in my opinion, seem to blow up on our Facebook page there. We're so thankful for the fans that have followed along. Devin is in the media bullpen hearing from the drivers. I'm sure there'll be a lot of opinions on the things we just discussed, from the Hall of Fame to the All-Star race to the what have you. So be sure to stick with Devin, and of course at Devin_Kupka on X and Devin.Kupka on Instagram. I always get the handles confused, but find Devin Kupka on Instagram and X, and then our 5 to Go podcast Facebook page. Dan Elliott, our all-star. What you got?
I've got the fact that don't forget what this weekend is all about, what it's truly all about. And let's celebrate the veterans. Let's celebrate. My dad was in the Navy, and I'm celebrating him this weekend. And for all the people that gave for our freedoms, and we thank you for that. And just the fact that this could be another one of the things that Charlotte brings under the fold for an all-star weekend would be to celebrate Memorial Day in this all-star weekend, because that to me would be just the icing on the cake.
Yeah, if you have it like it used to be an all-star leading up to Memorial Weekend, and then the Coke 600 in the middle of Memorial Weekend, yeah, that would be it. That would be it. So,
yep.
Yeah, I'm not going to run opposed to that at all. All right. Hey, my final thought, cheers to Mark Garrow, North Carolina resident. We'll keep it nearby to Charlotte anyway. Mark Garrow, there's a young racer that he's been letting stay with him while they get their feet under him in North Carolina. But this is classic Garrow. We miss him. For those who don't know, he was the co-anchor of the Performance Racing Network broadcasts for many years. He's let Devin crash his place before. He's been super generous and kind to me. The first person on PRN I met was Mark Garrow. And in quote-unquote retirement, he has refereed dozens of volleyball games, and like the high school level volleyball games. And for that high schooler's graduation, Mark Garrow left Saturday morning at 6 a.m. from North Carolina, drove all the way to Hampton, which is in South Metro Atlanta, Georgia, same city as Echo Park Speedway, went to that high schooler's graduation, and drove home. And they hung out with the family and watched racing on TV that night, and drove home and got home at like 3 or 4 in the morning or something ridiculous like that. That's Garrow, all right? And I've seen him drive through the night and the day to go to people's funerals and all sorts of things. And I just appreciate that about him. And I'm really glad he's out there still helping folks in his retirement from PRN. Sacrifice is what it's all about. My brother's in the Navy. Salute to all the veterans out there. You don't have to love every single thing the United States is about to salute the veterans that fight for the freedom for us to say it out loud that we're not okay what the U.S. is about, okay? And all the way around. So thank God for our freedom. Thank God for you and everybody tuning in. We'll be back next week to recap the Coke 600, the auxiliary events, the Indy 500, and whatever's going on in Canada with F1 maybe. We might. I don't know. We might not. But for Dan and Devin, I'm Doug, and thank you so much for listening to the 5 to Go podcast. And again, God bless the troops.